Hello, friends. Welcome. Namaste. And today we are going to do a piece of breath work, but it's so much more than that to me. I have a Corgis ball. If you have something like that, those children's balls that have malleability, you'll notice this is not something that's really hard and taut, right? Um, Grab it. If you don't, grab a blanket or something that you can roll up or fold up so it can put a little bit of pressure into our ribs when we do this next piece. And then we'll get into it in a second, but before we do, I just food for thought. When we get really have a lot of high emotions, I'm going to say high emotional states, and when we have a lot of stress, anxiety, worries in our life, things like that, those translate to causing tension in the body in general, but what we're going to work with is it causes a lot of tension in your diaphragm, that really strong sheath and the main muscle of respiration, of breathing. And then also it can cause a tension in the intercostals, which are between each of the ribs all the way around the body. And so that correlates to us being a lot shallower with our breath, a lot shorter, choppier, whatever you would like to call that, which leads us to stay in our sympathetic, our fight, flight, or freeze, our stress response, right? And so we're going to play with trying to get spaciousness and release tension in some of the major muscles of our respiration, our breathing, so that we can take deeper, smoother, lower breaths, which of course then starts to stimulate the vagus nerve as well, and it's just so wonderful for us. So, for my friends who don't have the ball, again, you'll notice that I have that blanket. I'm going to be on my side body, and I'm going to come down and I'm going to put either the blanket or the ball, whichever one you're working with, right? Right in that space of the ribs. From the lowest ribs is where the bottom of that um, blanket or ball is going to be, and just up to wherever that gets to on you, right? If it feels like it's too hard of a surface, whatever you're working with, grab something softer or maybe make a fold instead of a roll. I'm going to work with the ball because I have one, right? And I really like that. I like this exercise on the ball. So I'm going to talk about bottom and top because we're not on specific sides. My bottom elbow goes out, my hand comes up to support my head. My knees are bent and I'm on that surface that's putting just a little bit of pressure up into my bottom ribs. I'm going to take my top hand, assuming it's okay, on my shoulder. I'm going to place my top hand on the bottom part of this side rib basket. And I'm going to come into that soft belly breath. Those of you who study with me regularly, you know how much I love this breath. I think it's such an important breath. It's the diaphragmatic breath, right? So the belly is really soft when you inhale. Those of you who do this all the time, beginner's mind, like you've never done this before, right? Soften your belly so much that when you breathe, the belly gently moves, right? And when you exhale out, I guess I'll say, and when you exhale, that belly gently moves in or back towards the spine. And I want you to see if you can, without a lot of exertion or striving or effort, see if your top ribs can gently also move up towards your hand, towards the ceiling. And again, if your shoulders start to come up to your ears or you start to get stressed out, you're defeating the whole reason that we're here, right? To try to release the stress out of these muscles. Now, one more piece, and that is I might take this top hand and just really gently push down, right? And give a little bit of resistance. I'm going to keep pushing down as I inhale, and then my diaphragm has to work a little harder to lift those ribs back up. Soft tongue, soft jaw, soft eyes. All breathing is through the nose. My friends who know it, you might add that slight restriction at the throat so you have that whisper quality, that oceanic quality. So I hear my breath in the back of my throat. you're feeling really bored or you have resistance, you might need it more than most. Right? Take one more. Okay, we're going to do one more thing before we go to the other side. That is, if it's available, you're going to straighten your bottom arm and lay towards the bicep. You could also bring in a block or a blanket or something like that if you need extra support or have the arm forward so you're not on that shoulder, right? You're going to take your other arm, your top arm, overhead, grab a hold of that wrist with the bottom hand, and just lengthen. Now, that might feel like plenty. Again, we're just going to lengthen through that whole top side body. Some of us might take our top leg and, like we're an arrow, so not so much in the piked position, although you could do that if it feels really tight, right? I'm going to start to reach down. I might have the heel up a little less. Up a little bit. It's a little less of a stretch. I might have it down towards the ground. Push the heel towards the foot side. Gently pull the hand, the arm towards the head side. And breathe. If you're collapsing down towards the ground with your upper body, you might roll that shoulder open a little bit, or you could play with it and move and find out where is it where I'm getting the stretch my body's at. I was gonna say asking for, I guess that we're, that it that we would like while we're in this position. La, 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 la. Okay, put that top hand down, push up. Let's lean back. Let our legs come out in front of us and just kind of wiggle the legs or move the feet. If you want to move the upper body a little bit, whatever that is. And then we'll move to the other side. You can simply flip your body. You don't need to see me anymore. I'm going to stay this way just so that y'all can see. I think it's better from the fun side for this one. Have that blanket or that ball under the new low ribs, right? On the bottom side, my bottom elbow is behind me and I support my head with my hand. Or use a block and have that arm forward if that hurts the shoulder. My top hand comes onto the bottommost part of my top rib basket. And again, I'm not putting pressure in initially. Initially, just have it there as a guidance. And when you inhale, soft belly breath, right? Just come to that first and foremost. And then once you get that soft belly breath going on, then you can go ahead and just sense, right? Can you ask those ribs to gently move up? And your hand is telling you whether or not that is happening. So I'm still not quite putting that pressure down. And if you're like, no, I'm going to put the pressure down now because what I need is I need strength. It's like, you know what? Be kind to my friend. Maybe don't push my friend so much. Be willing to do less than 100%. Now, maybe that hand gently pushes the ribs down, especially on the inhale. Keep pushing on the inhale. And now the diaphragm has to work a little harder. So why do I want my diaphragm to work a little harder if it's stressed out? One of the things they find in research, and that might work in your body, right, is that if you have a muscle that's been holding tension, sometimes if you ask it to work and contract, right, which is what it's doing, then we can release and find a little more softness after having asked the muscle to contract in a very active way. So it's not actually about I'm trying to strengthen the diaphragm. It's actually we're trying to get the diaphragm to contract actively, and then when it's done contracting, does that correlate to less tension in the muscle? All breathing is through the nose. A little bit of that whisper quality at the back of the throat. Let's do one more. I usually close my eyes when I do this work. Pardon me. And definitely fall asleep. So I'm either going to lengthen that bottom arm out and just lay on the bicep, or I'm going to put a block in and just have my arm in front of me so my shoulder doesn't get hurt. I'm going to maybe take that top arm and reach over, my palm facing down. I might grab that hand. I might either just support and hold it with that bottom hand. I might actively lengthen, pulling gently with that bottom hand. Maybe my top leg stretches out. And again, a little above the ground is a little less intense. You could use a block underneath that ankle. You could bring it all the way down to the ground, but try to stay here. And then just a little activity, heel towards one side of the mat or beyond, arm, fingers reaching the other way in opposition. Again, I often say if you're rolled down, come up a little bit so you get the direct side body. But what do I know? You could roll a little bit on that surface and see, if my ribs move a little down, is that actually more beneficial? Does I get an area that could use length, right? Or back a little bit, etc. So find your spot, your spots. Take another breath. And then go ahead and bring that hand down. You're going to lift up simply enough to get the prop out of the way. And then we're actually going to do one more little thing on our bellies. So come down onto your belly, crocodile style. You can either stack your forearms, if that feels too extreme, stack your palms. Bring your forehead down, let your feet go, and knees go a little wider so your knees are about the width of your mat-ish, maybe not quite that wide. If you need something under your ankles, otherwise you're just pointing your toes, but not actively, you're just soft when you get there. And the last little bit is simply this. Your belly has nowhere to go. So if you do the soft belly breath while you're here, when you inhale, you might feel how that low back expands. But because we're talking about the intercostals and the diaphragm, right? Yes, let the low back expand, but I would love for you to actually think about your lowest back ribs expanding every time you inhale. And again, it's not that you're shoving them up to the sky or anything like that. Be pretty effortless, for lack of a better word right now. And then target that middle back area as if you could bring it to just one spot. That expansion, inhale and imagine expanding your middle back. And last two or so, target your upper back. Like you could even expand your neck. And we're on different timings, so if you finish before I call it, you could do, pardon me, another one or just go to your natural breath. You could stay here and you could keep doing this for longer. It's such a beautiful thing to just bring awareness to the breath and the movement. If you're on a time commitment, you're going to bring your hands next to your ribs, knees, feet in. Use that 1, 2, 3, 4, the belly, right? The pelvic floor, and push up. You can either just go back to kneeling or you can sit cross-legged. We won't be here for long. But just take a moment, a couple of breaths, I'll say, to just check into how you're feeling in your ribs, in between your ribs. And can you feel your diaphragm? I think I have gotten to the point where I can feel it in some ways and in some moves, but just notice more than anything, right? Rather than worrying about feeling these particular muscles, does the breath feel different than when you started this? Hands together in front of the chest. May you be well, friends. May all beings everywhere be well. No exceptions. Namaste.